Are you someone who usually works in black and white, but you're looking for a good art supply to help you transition from drawing to painting? Well, stay tuned and I'll show you how I did this simple moonscape using black India ink. Hi, Shannon Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artists at Play, and today I am going to be doing a simple little moonscape in my watercolor sketchbook using India ink. So this is just a fun little project that I wanted to do to loosen up a bit, and you know, it's just from my imagination and I just wanted to play around in my sketchbook, and I figured that I wanted to keep it simple, so I decided that I would just use my black India ink and go from there. So the reason why I love black India ink is because it is so versatile. If you see in my palette there, I have a bunch of different black India ink in there. It's all actually the same India ink, but I have different amounts of water mixed in with the India ink so that I can do different value washes with it. So you'll see me going back and forth with my water pen, and I will be just dipping into different inks depending on what amount of water I want. And of course, my water pen does add a little bit more water to it, which helps me to blend it a little bit more easily on my surface and kind of dulls it down a little bit. So I'm trying to work a little bit from light to dark. And I am, of course, that you can see that there's a moon there. I have that masked out with my Molotow masking pen. And a bunch of the stars I also have masked out. And so the lighter part is obviously going to be around the moon, and then the darker part is going to be further away from the moon and at the top, because I'm also going according to like how the atmosphere works. So the darker part of the sky will be on the top, and it'll get lighter as we get towards the horizon. So this piece is actually very experimental. I am just playing around with it and just seeing what I like. I don't have a reference. I am going directly from imagination, and I'm experimenting a lot. Right now what you're seeing me do is dipping rubbing alcohol in that. This is just to create some fun texture because it pushes the pigment away from where the alcohol is. This is a technique that I love to use in watercolor. It works a little bit better in watercolor, but it still works with ink, and you'll see that later on. It just kind of makes some blotches and some fun drips. And right now, I'm wetting the area where I want the trees. I'm kind of making shapes of trees, and then I'm just dipping almost pure ink into that water, and it's spreading to the wet parts where I did the shapes of the trees. So it gives kind of a fun, blurry effect, and just a nice silhouette against that lit up sky. I had a lot of fun with that. That was an experiment as well. I just went down with some water, and then I put the ink into it, and it spread out, and that was just so satisfying to watch. So at first, I was actually going to just do all trees in the lower half, and I'm using a technique where I do darker towards the top, and then the trees get lighter down at the bottom, so that I can do layers of trees. But then I thought that I might like to have some water in there, so I end up coming back later and using a rag to lift out some of that ink, and you'll see me do that. So the reason why I wanted to post this as a video is because I wanted to talk about the versatility of ink. Ink is not very expensive, and it's pretty permanent if you get the black India ink. It's light fast, and you can get a full value range with just one ink. And you can use brushes with it, or you can use a pen like I have been, or you can use multiple different kinds of tools with it. But it's easy to have on hand, and you can do so much with it. Right there, I just sprayed a bunch of water down, and you'll see me lifting where I'm going to have the reflections in the water. So for this, I am using a small sketchbook by Winsor & Newton. Doesn't say how many pounds the paper is on it, but it is cold press. It did leak through a little bit to the page underneath, so it's not a very thick paper. I actually got this at a gift shop at the which museum was it? I think it was the Bowdoin Museum of Art. I got it in the gift shop. So it's kind of like a novelty thing. It has Winslow Homer's watercolor palette as a picture on the front of it. So I can't really find it online. I tried to, but I think any watercolor paper or mixed media paper will work with India ink. And I'm just using a Pentel water brush. So the one reason why I really like India ink is because it is a good transition between drawing and painting, which I mentioned in my intro. If you usually work in black and white and you're a little intimidated, or if you usually work with pens, for instance, and so you're used to working with ink, but you kind of want to start going more painterly, this is a great transition. It will help you practice with your values, and it will give you the feel of what it's like to work with a wet medium. It's very closely linked to watercolor, and so a lot of the things that I'm doing here are things that I would normally do with watercolor. I'm using my electric eraser to lift my masking fluid to get those stars out. And I'm also using it to try and lighten that paper a little bit more. Like I said, ink is pretty permanent, but if you get it when it's still a little bit wet, you're able to lift a little bit. I did end up damaging the paper a little bit, but where this is in my sketchbook and this is not a permanent piece that I plan on selling, I didn't care. I was more about getting the look that I liked, and very less about, worried about how I had to go about it to do it, because I'm a little bit looser in my sketchbooks, as you can see. Normally I work in pure realism, but when I'm in my sketchbooks, I loosen up quite a bit more. And this was just a fun way to play. I'm picking out some stars with a craft knife in the water. And then I'm similar to watercolor, I am working light and then I'm going in darker with layers. So I start out light, and then to get my darkest darks, I just keep layering it. And then eventually I'll probably come in with pure ink just to get my darkest darks. And again, this is just something from my imagination, and I just wanted it to be fun and dreamlike, which is another reason why I use the alcohol. Now you can really see those spots in the sky where I use the alcohol. So I highly recommend just picking up a cheap thing of India ink and playing around with it. This is going to be a great way for you to practice values before you jump into painting with color, because you can get your darkest darks and your lightest lights, and that's really how you're going to get your realism. But also, look how moody this piece is. Like, if you want to do something dark and moody, this is a perfect medium for that. But you can also do daytime scenes as well, and then you won't need any masking fluid or anything like that. And you can paint pretty much anything else you want with it. Flowers or portraits or whatever. It's very versatile. I actually did a daytime scene using this technique, and again, out of my imagination, for Inktober a couple years ago. So I can post a picture of that here. Now I'm untaping it. I had my page taped down to protect the other pages in the sketchbook. And here is the final piece. I hope that you like it, and thank you for watching. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit subscribe. Also, if you're interested in seeing more of my artwork, I'm on social media, so check out the links in the description below.